And to be honest, guys, I was not really that happy when I left the theater after this movie. Newest movie, Black Bag. This is directed by Steven Soderbergh, which, funny enough, he is the director of Ocean's 11, 12, and 13, which is crazy because even with its mistakes, I love those movies, I'm not gonna lie. George Clooney and Brad Pitt, come on guys, you gotta be helping me out here. Starting Michael Fassbender, which needs no introduction, it is Michael Fassbender, with the amazing Cate Blanchett, Naomi Harris, and Regé-Jean Page. This movie is basically kind of like a fun thriller, spy, mystery kind of thing. Basically what's going on, you have Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett, both of which work for this corporation called kind of like Black Bag. It's basically MI6. They are suspecting that there is a leak within the company, and unfortunately, it is Michael Fassbender's wife who is in the line of fire, and he suspects that she has something to do with it. I need to talk about spoilers, I'm sorry. Okay, like if you don't want to hear it, I'm sorry. My issue with this movie is not necessarily the story, the acting, the way it is shot, or anything like that. It is just boring. Any of you saw the trailer, you would think that there would be a little bit more action in this movie. That's not the case at all. There was like one action scene and it's basically a car getting blown up and flipping over, and that's just dialogue between these characters, which honestly would be fine if the story was actually interesting or kept me engaged. This movie is like around an hour and 51 minutes, so it's not that long. And unfortunately, I caught myself kind of getting sleepy within the halfway point. It reveals the plot midway through the movie. Like midway through the movie, both characters figure out what is going on, and then you're like, oh, that's okay, then never mind. Okay, then the plot continues, and then it goes on this weird thing. You kind of do figure out who it is before the ending comes. So because of that, when the ending does come, it's kind of lackluster because you kind of already know who it is. So when it's revealed that it's him, it's like, oh, who would have known, you know? It's not shaming any of the actors at all. All the actors do great. It's just the material that they're given is not that good. Another question is, why was there so much advertising for this film? Like, there's been a lot of advertising for this film by Focus Features, and it is not that great, y'all. The problem with this movie is that this is not a movie I will go to the theater to watch. This is a movie that I expect Netflix to release. Not saying that that's a bad thing. Michael Fassbender did the movie Killer on Netflix, and I think that that movie's great, even though some people think it's absolutely boring. That's not the point. It's just that the quality of the story and how, I don't know, I just feel like this would have been better if it would have been released on streaming. That way I wouldn't have been so mad that I spend money on a movie that, quite frankly, was very disappointing and not that great afterwards. All the actors look nice, you know? They look nice. I'll give them that. This is just not an interesting movie. Not that engaging, and in the end you're just like, that was it? 5 out of 10? 5 out of 10? That sounds fair? Yeah, I think that sounds fair. But yeah, guys, not a fan. Don't spend your money on the theater. Wait until it comes out in subscriptions. It's gonna be way cheaper that way. I don't know why. This weekend has not been the greatest for movies, at least from the ones that I've seen. The Tale of Jenny Penn. This was directed by James Ashcroft. I didn't really see anything familiar in his filmography. The only two real big names that I recognize in this movie are John Lithgow and Geoffrey Rush. You're following Geoffrey Rush as a judge in New Zealand, and unfortunately during one of his trials he suffers a stroke and ends up in the care of a nursing home, which, by the way, is almost everyone's worst nightmare. Finds himself being tormented, and it's a little bit of a psycho horror, abuse, very unsettling kind of movie, which is up my alley. I went into this movie thinking that it was gonna lean more into like the elder abuse, or, you know, the horror of kind of like being, you know, stuck in your body and everything is out of your control, which I'm not gonna lie, for the first 30 minutes of this film, they achieved that very well. Seeing it from the perspective of Geoffrey Rush when he's trying to communicate that he's suffering from elder abuse, and everyone, to be frank, honestly treats him like a child, and it's almost incredibly frustrating in the movie, which is great. There are so many moments where he's trying to communicate and he is constantly demeaned, baby talked to. They're treating him like he's an idiot. Even though he suffered a stroke, he can still listen and understand what is going on around him. It's everyone else treating him like a child, which, to be honest, if this movie would have kept with that tone in the movie, oh, it would have been a crazy, unsettling movie, because for those first couple of minutes when that is happening, it is incredibly frustrating being in his position because no one is taking him seriously. Everyone is kind of like ignoring him, pushing him aside, almost like he's a burden to society now. It's very fat. When the movie is going at it from that point of view, is fantastic. There is a lot of very unsettling scenes, a lot of very disturbing scenes, and this movie doesn't really shy away from that. It's very unsettling, even in some scenes. Also talks a little bit about, like, you know, dealing with aging, dealing with the fact that your body is just doesn't keep up with who you are, and, you know, who you are and your spirit and your soul, whatever you choose to call it. Life in the nursing home, which is not that great, because unfortunately, if everyone knows, nursing homes are constantly undermanned, understaffed, and there's constantly patients rolling in and out of facilities because of that. And unfortunately, who suffers? Not just the patients, the most of all, but also the caregivers, because I'm sure that many of these people see these conditions and they are not happy about these conditions. But that's what they got to work with, and unfortunately it's a really big system to go up against, so it's not exactly an easy battle. Cat that walks around in the nursing home, he's very cute. Like, very cute at some points. I appreciate the cat. And the problem with this movie, I am not gonna lie, this movie is quite boring after the first 30 minutes to get to the point. And sometimes when it does get to the point, it is either not interesting or it's left as a plot hole. Like, they never revisit it again. Like, all of a sudden murders are involved in the facility, which again, could have been really cool to see. Could have been cool to see that, you know, if an elderly man starts murdering people and the facility tries everything to cover up for it because they don't want the negative attention. That would have been interesting. Again, this movie tackles interesting subjects, but they just leave it there and then they just go on with the rest of the story that, quite frankly, is not that interesting. Yeah, just overall, man, just not a great movie. Just, yeah. It was just, after that, it just fell apart and I was just very bored and very unsatisfied by the end. I don't recommend this movie, guys, even if it were on streaming, but if you want to check it out on streaming, sure. But even I don't recommend it for streaming. I'm like a 4 out of 10, guys. Yeah. Not my favorite movie. I do have a couple other movies that I want to see this weekend. Hopefully they're better than the last 2 that I've seen, other than Novocaine, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out my review, check it out. I got you. Anyway, guys, that's my thoughts. Go watch this movie on streaming and have a couple of friends over and enjoy as to how boring and stupid it is. Anyway, guys, if you disagree with me, take it down to the comment section below. Leave a like and subscribe on your way there. I'll see you all for the next one, okay? Bye!